Yeah, definitely. Manta and I went to the same high school together, and when we came in as freshmen and sophomores, it was our team. Our Punahou was, it was a little down, and Manta and I worked hard, and we told each other that we wanted to win a championship, and same goes for when we came to Notre Dame, and I don't think we could have imagined being 12-0, and Manta winning all those awards, but it's just a testimony to how hard Manta and I have worked, and this team has worked because, like I said earlier, we were down, and now Notre Dame's back.
When you take a look at Alabama's defense, what are some of the concerns for you as a receiver going into a game where everybody talks about the SEC, they talk about speed?
Yeah, everyone talks about speed, but they forget that we have some talent too. Our O-line is awesome, and they've done a great job protecting. Everett can get out of any situation. Theo, Sierre, even down to our freshmen, Chris Brown, Devontae. We got a lot of speed, and I'm not taking anything away from the SEC, but I have a lot of confidence in our team.
When you take a look at Everett, what have you seen from day one of this season that's allowed him to progress to the point where Coach and the rest of these guys are confident in him starting a national championship game as a young quarterback?
I think the biggest thing for Everett was to know that the guys had his back, and I remember going back early in that Pittsburgh game. I believe Everett got pulled, and I told Ev, I was like, he was a little down on the sideline. I told him, I was like, we need you, and I need you to stay locked in because you might have to go in. And at that moment, I think Everett realized that guys had his back, and he came back in the game and won it for us. And after the game, he thanked me, and I think it's just the fact that he didn't think anyone had his back in the beginning, but once he got that confidence, it's really showed on the field.
And talk about John Goodman, a guy like yourself who's been around the program for a long time. How nice is it to see him getting some reps and making some big plays for this team down the stretch?
Yeah, Goody and I trained together, all summer, and we've become really good friends, especially this year. Him and I are the older guys of the receiving corps, but just to see Goody out there, making one-handed grabs, making touchdowns, I couldn't be happier for the guy. He deserves everything. He works hard, and he's a great leader for our team.